professional solutions to money, relationships, wellness, and more. Shine a light onto your day and into your life. Power Your Life with Dr. Joanne White.
Welcome to Power Your Life. I'm Joanne White, your host. With over 30 years business experience, my first guest has found that there's no roadmap for leadership success. So she created a business of her own to help support emerging and established leaders. She's here now to tell us all about it. Joining me via Skype is Gwen Webber-McLeod. Welcome, Gwen. How are you?
Welcome. I'm great. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you this morning.
It's wonderful for you to be here. So you have worked with so many individuals and organizations and companies, teaching them about leaders and leadership and helping them develop their skills. What do leaders need to do? Right now there's a lot of question and doubt among our leaders and really being able to believe and trust leaders. What do you think is important for leaders to do, leaders in any organization or anywhere, to gain or regain the trust of their organization, their members, their team?
You know, what I observe in the most successful leaders that we support in my company is that they focus on three specific things. They focus on developing a philosophy that allows them to be their authentic self at all times. They then look at developing skills and then find ways to manifest that philosophy throughout their behavior. I think that word-deed alignment is critical in building trust with leaders. And employees always say to me, I get to be the undercover boss on my journey to helping leaders. And what employees always say to me is that we hear what leaders say, but we only believe what we see them do.
So it's about not only being authentic, but saying what you say and living it out and acting it out and being true to your words. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm looking for in leaders that I support. And all of the evidence, I really believe in evidence-based leadership. Will I see your leadership manifesting through your behavior and business outcomes? And that's exactly what employees are looking for as well.
Great. And also, all of us, men, women, we're all leaders in our own lives. What do we need to believe in that within ourselves, Gwen?
You know, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Dr. White, because I truly believe that, leaders need to live one life, to define their personal missions, have their values, and be that individual at all times. And in my work, I'm observing that it requires confidence, competence, courage, and calm to be that kind of authentic leader on a regular and daily basis.
So confidence, calm, I love those. That's so important. But how does a leader, especially a young leader, or even a leader that's more established, how do they develop the confidence that's necessary to stand in front of people, to get people to do what they need to do, to make their organization again or their team flourish? What's one component, Gwen?
You know, one of the things that I would encourage people to do is just practice. Practice makes perfect, and that may sound a bit cliche, but every leader that I work with, including myself, says that there were moments we were faking it till we made it, but we just on a daily basis trusted that if we just stepped out and did what we were desiring to do, that the confidence would come. So confidence is I think like developing a muscle.
So confidence, it's so important to believe in ourselves. And what if, I know it's a lot of young leaders, they're doubting who they are, they're doubting whether or not they're going to be able to regain the trust, the respect of their team, of the people that they need to serve, their constituents. What is so important in terms of believing that they have that when they're sort of floundering?
You know, my company's tagline is that leadership is not a job to do alone. And when I'm working with emerging leaders, and for me, that could be someone between the ages of 12 and 30, one of the things that I think helps them is to get some external affirmation from a trusted advisor. So I encourage everyone to have a mentor or even to utilize an executive coach.
So mentoring, I think that's so important. I have a mentor and I've mentored so many people, and mentoring really helps you with that one-on-one, feeling valuable, feeling important, and being able to share concerns, even the doubts that we're talking about. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I truly believe that mentoring and executive coaching is where rubber meets the road. And that, when I ask people how did they arrive at their places of leadership, they often say to me, because I demonstrated technically that I could do the task of that job. But no one ever asked me what I really knew about building trust, building teams, supporting people through change. And I think the opportunity to develop those skills really comes by having a safe one-on-one, respectful relationship with a mentor or a coach.
So relationship with a coach, relationship with your team, relationship with yourself. All of that is about relationship, and they're key. Gwen,
Absolutely.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much being with us today, and have a blessed day. Still
Thank
to
you so
come,
much. I
are you a
appreciate it.
restless sleeper and groggy during the day? Ahead, we'll have some tips to help you overcome that constant tired feeling. Welcome back. Are you waking up cranky, on edge with brain fog? Here to talk about that and how to release stress is Dr. Laura Picciano. She's a board-certified internist from the Ripper Center of Cooper Health System. Welcome, Dr. Picciano.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
My pleasure. Many people have trouble sleeping, and whether they can't fall asleep on time and they try to, or they're waking up and then waking up and then waking up. So what do people need to do, and why is it that people are sort of not taking lack of sleep seriously?
It's hard to say. I think there's a lot of demands nowadays on people in general, and we all take our work home. Let's face it, we're still on our iPads and we're still on our computers until late night, and that's actually a significant reason that we are no longer getting the proper sleep that we need. What happens is we often use these devices, and there's a certain light that's emitted that actually interferes with sleep. So if we're using these right before bedtime, already we're setting us up for some problems.
So do we need to kind of turn that off a few hours beforehand? Is that what you're recommending?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's just one thing. The list goes on and on.
Okay, so people don't recognize, though, that it's such a major problem and how it really interferes with overall with our health. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, fatigue. The actual biggest cause of fatigue is lack of quality sleep. And a lot of times we're sort of setting ourselves up with our lifestyle changes. There's things that we do, for example, a lot of caffeine in our diet, what we consider to be a nightcap, and hopefully not self-medicating, although we do see that from time to time.
Right.
They sure do. They sure do. So unfortunately, we start setting ourselves up, and before we know it, we're waking up and we're saying, I felt like I didn't sleep, even though I might have been in bed for 6 to 8 hours. And then that basically just starts a whole horrible cascade of, I don't feel well, I'm not as productive, maybe there's some increased stress with that, and then very, very significant consequences like falling asleep when driving. That's very dangerous.
Right.
Exactly, and we're just not at our personal best.
What do we need to do personally to create that optimal health within ourselves, other than just the sleep aspect?
There's a lot of things we can do. First of all, I go through with all my patients, how are we doing with diet and exercise? Are we cleaning this up? Are we avoiding, I call it watch out for the ENs, nicotine, caffeine.
Oh.
These are significant issues. And I find that a lot of times it may just go beyond the 1 cup of coffee in the morning to wake up. It's people that are trying so desperately to make up for that fatigue. So again, trying to use the use of stimulants, those 5-hour energy drinks, for example, that we see marketed. And some of that stuff actually works in a bad way because we're staying up and we're just not getting that downtime that we need to relax our bodies.
So maybe doing that a little bit, but not really overdoing it is important.
Exactly, and also timing it. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with having a cup of coffee early in the morning, but the caffeine can hang around quite often, very long, especially if we're, saying I have a deadline and I want to get a little energy, and I'm doing that at 5 o'clock towards the end of the day, or that 3 o'clock pick me up when we all start tanking. That can last well into the night.
The Ripper Center has been around for a few years. Tell us what's very unique about it.
It's a great place. It really
Not
is.
just because
Not
you
just
work
because
there.
I'm there either. But basically, I just came on board on February, and that's when we had our second awakening, if you want to say. And what's special about it is we do only women. We're head to toe care, basically. We have a group of multi-specialists that come and do hours there. We're only seeing women, and there's only really women doctors that are there. So we're
I didn't
women
know
treated
that.
by
Right.
women, and we also have a great mission, and that's to educate. And that really is my heart. I love to educate lay folks about their bodies and their health, as well as obviously students and physicians to be. So a lot of our mission is education because, let's face it, your body doesn't always come with an owner's manual.
Perfect, right. We need
Exactly.
to learn that. And I knew about the fact that it was from head to toe from speaking with you, but I didn't know that it was all women doctors. And I think that sometimes when you have women concerns, that makes it easier to have a conversation with someone.
Without doubt, without doubt.
Stress seems to be a really big factor in our lives. You mentioned that, and it's often a killer and can lead to a lot of serious problems. What do we need to do to minimize our stress or take care of us so that the stress doesn't get out of control?
Well, the biggest thing is to first recognize that it's there. I have a lot of folks that'll say, Dr. P, I know it's not there, but then as I'm listening to them recount a day, I can just say, here it goes, it's going on a whole lot. Well, first of all, the first thing you can do is, again, cleaning up the diet and exercise. It's very, very hard to bear stress when we're just not taking care of ourselves in a general fashion. So people who are malnourished, even overstimulated, these people are really going to be affected, especially if there's underlying mental health issues to begin with. The first thing you want to do is get that house in order. Second,
That house meaning
that whole body.
It's body house,
Exactly.
right.
And then it's actually getting the appropriate resources. I do recommend most of the times to seek counseling or discuss it with your doctor. Are you
Right.
somebody that would benefit from counseling? And then in those cases where we're failing that, recognize that there might be a role for medication treating your condition.
Oftentimes people not only have stress, but they don't know where to turn other than sometimes you said it's a great idea to turn to your physician, but there's so much information out there. What do we trust? How do we know what to trust that's accurate?
There is a lot of information, unfortunately, not all of it good. I think the internet in many ways is a blessing and sometimes a curse.
Right.
Here's what I would recommend. You should form a relationship with the primary doctor. And when I say primary, it could be internal medicine, family practice, maybe gynecology if you're a woman, and ask them for their advice. There's a reason why they should be well vetted and board certified, and those are your most reliable sources. That's your first and primary source. If you see something and you're not particularly sure if this is factual or not, bring it up at your visit. You know, bring that up. We're not averse. A good doctor is never averse to saying, hey, you know, I'm looking at this, looking at that, because you also not only need the information, but you have to make sure that the study that is being referenced is valid.
So oftentimes a lot of your doctors, your own doctor, your own physician, internist will use complementary medicine. Dr. Laura, this has been so wonderful.
Thank you.
Dr. P, as your patients call you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
My pleasure. Still ahead, are you having a summertime barbecue or picnic? Up next, expert advice and tips to keep you and your family and your guests healthy and free from foodborne illnesses when Power Your Life returns. We're back, and nothing says summer like an outdoor barbecue. But with the potato salad and the burgers come a risk of foodborne illnesses. Here with some great summer food safety tips is the founder from Mamanista.com, Debbie Bookstaber. Welcome, Debbie.
Hi, thanks for having me here.
It's our pleasure, and it's such an important time because I was reading some of your statistics, and it's something like 1 in 6 Americans will experience some kind of foodborne illness or whatever, right?
Yeah.
From whatever they're eating.
Food poisoning is a real serious public health threat. It causes 1 in 6 Americans will get food poisoning over the course of a year, and it actually causes well over 100,000 hospitalizations, and the estimates show almost 3,000 people die every year.
That's a lot.
It's actually a pretty serious issue.
So is it that we're doing something wrong, that we're not taking this seriously? What do we need to, especially right now it's summer and people, like I said, people are having barbecues and they're leaving their food out. What do they need to do? What's one tip that's really important so that they're safeguarding their health and their family's health?
Well, so I'm here on behalf of the USDA's Food Safe Families campaign.
You're an ambassador.
Yeah, and we blog about it a lot on Mamanista. And it's because you don't have to be a professional chef to take food safety seriously. You know, I'm just a mom, but there's simple steps we can do to keep our family safe. I think the reason why we have a lot of food poisoning is simply that we get busy, we forget. And actually studies have shown that almost 2/3 of Americans don't regularly use food thermometers when cooking.
So one of the keys you're saying is to use a food thermometer, right? And you and I were talking, you were talking about hamburgers or even turkey burgers, right? So you have to put a food thermometer in there. Why is that?
Well, according to the USDA, they've done some surveys. 1 in 4 burgers will turn brown before it's actually at a safe temperature to eat. So, you know, sometimes if you've, depending on the kind of meat that you bought, or if you had it frozen in advance, it actually will turn brown before it's at a safe temperature. So you can use a food thermometer and check to make sure that your hamburgers hit 160 degrees and that it's safe. And you can also check for safe cooking times on foodsafety.gov. But basically with hamburgers, seeing is not believing.
So you see this great hamburger, it looks all brown, or again, a turkey burger, and it's not safe.
Exactly.
I've been to restaurants where they have buffets, and even when we're having a lot of parties, even if it's in the wintertime, but especially in the summer when we're having outdoor parties, and the food is left out and then we're going to it, and that can also create some illness, right?
Absolutely. There's something called the 40-140 rule. So that means that
I never heard that.
Yeah, it's cold food should be kept cold, so at around 40 degrees, and hot food should be kept hot. And so normally what they say is, you know, say you have a buffet or a party, you can leave things out for up to 2 hours. But during the summer, because it's warmer, bacteria multiplies faster. So that means it actually doesn't take as long for your food to become unsafe. So they like to tell you that when the weather's over 90 degrees, to only leave it out up to an hour. And so just to kind of keep it safe. So if you see a dip that's been out for hours at a picnic, you know, don't eat it.
Don't eat it.
Or,
and what if you're covering it? It's still unsafe?
Well, I mean, covering your food with, you know, I know I cover my food to keep bugs out, right? Just because I think they're gross. But the bacteria has nothing to do with it being covered. It's just, you know, in the warmer months, it can multiply.
So you're still not safe. The bacteria can still seep under the covers and whatever, and it's still dangerous.
Exactly. So just sometimes I'll set like a timer on my cell phone to remind me if I'm entertaining to kind of put the food back in the fridge. Or you can do other tips, like sometimes I'll serve dips and I'll actually put the dip in a bowl of ice to keep it cold while I'm serving. Or if I'm entertaining at home indoors, I can like leave things simmering on a crock pot or simmering on the stove, so I keep my hot foods hot and my cold foods cold.
Really important information, and something else that startled me, because I'm at fault for this too. You were mentioning something about why it's not a good idea to eat and have your cell phone or your computer or your whatever it is, and I do that a lot, and yesterday I was thinking, oh my God, I have to listen to you, so tell us about it.
Well, one of the biggest food safety tips that you can find on foodsafety.gov is they have 4 tips for being safe. Clean, separate, chill, and also just cook to make sure that you have the right temperature. And so washing your hands is really important. And what people don't realize is, say I wash my hands, I'm cooking, I'm preparing food, or even I'm just sitting down to eat a sandwich, I'm eating with my hands. If I've touched my phone, there was a recent Stanford University study, phones are actually 10 times dirtier than like toilet handles.
Oh my
There's
God.
Fecal matter on them at times. There's E. coli, salmonella, you know, other things. So you can actually contaminate your hands by touching your phone.
So what if you wash your hands and then can you wipe off your phone and sanitize your phone, or what's keeping it safe?
I mean, just you can sanitize your phone. You know, sometimes I'll use like an alcohol wipe, or even just I'll put some warm soapy water on a cloth. I'm not going to dip my phone in water, right?
Right.
But you know, some warm soapy water on a cloth, not too damp, and just kind of clean it off. But really, just the other simple thing you could do is just wash your hands before you eat, or wash your hands as you're cooking. And if you touch something like your phone, or if you go to answer the door and get a package, wash your hands again. At buffets, I leave out bottles of Purell and hand wipes.
That's a great idea.
It's just such an easy thing. Or really even just get big boxes of baby wipes. Leave out even baby wipes. Just remind people to wash their hands. So we always tell our kids, wash your hands before you eat. And yet as adults, we sometimes forget.
That's true. But if we're washing our hands and then we still go to touch that and we're eating, unless we do something to sanitize our cell phones or our computer, we're still at risk.
You just got your hands dirty again. So
people are going back to school, kids are going back to school, and one quick tip in terms of what parents need to do to make sure that the food that they're sending with their kids is safe.
Well, I like to use an insulated lunch bag. So, gone are the days of sending your kids with just a brown bag. You can get a nice insulated lunch bag. They don't cost that much money, and put cold packs in it. Sometimes also another tip I'll do is my son loves juice boxes. I freeze the juice boxes overnight, put them in his lunch box in the morning, and it's thawed out by lunchtime, but it's kept his sandwich cold.
Thank you so much. Freeze and make sure that you're keeping it cold and taking care of your kids and yourself. You are wonderful and a great source of information. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Power Your Life will be right back. Ahead, find out what's hot for next week. Before we go, I'd like to leave you with my PowerPoints for the week. Are you stuck in your head, frozen with indecision, or are you a different kind of stuck? The emotional kind, when your emotions get the best of you and the same aggravating feelings overtake you and you're hopeless and helpless under their spell. How do you recover from being stuck in unwanted thoughts or emotions that have you by your throat? Use my SLS method. Number 1, stir yourself by music or dance. Even stretching moments can shift and enhance your mood. Any movement in one part of us creates shift and movement in another part. That's the wonderful body-mind connection that's wired into us. 2, love yourself. I don't know about you, but when my mind beats up on me or my hurt or anger rage at me, love, especially the self-love kind, is the last on my list. Yet it's the most important time for you to resort to loving acts of kindness for you. Do whatever you can to take care of yourself without really maximizing your bank account. Number 3, surrender yourself. It's not about giving up. Surrender to the situation that can't be changed. Go from out-of-control behavior or mind-mashing to a place of acceptance of you, of what is, and of what happened, with the resolve to let it go. SLS. Thanks for being with us tonight. Next week, we're joined by a renowned comic book and collectibles expert who'll share 5 things to invest in that, guess what, can make you rich. Remember, you have the power to power your dreams and power your life.